Howdy, folks. It is time for another Jingle Jam, my dudes. How are we doing? Alright, so we are starting to get into the end of Jingle Jam. This is the second to last stream. Tomorrow's going to be our last one. Tonight, we're going to be doing some writing and some brainstorming for Privateer, which, for those of you who don't know, that was the game I tried to develop for about 9 months, somewhere in that range. If you go back on this channel and look at the videos, they're still up. You can go look at my devlogs. That was back when I didn't know as much about producing videos. That's back when I had worse equipment. That was back when I knew less about programming. I probably won't be actually developing, or at least attempting to develop a game for quite a while. But when I transitioned away from doing the game dev for that project, I decided, you know what, let's turn this into a writing project instead of a programming one. So I have a Obsidian journal that we're going to be going into and looking around and seeing the kinds of ideas I had for the world I wanted to create. But before we get into that, we have some games to give away. As per usual, I am giving away games to members of the Discord. For those of you who don't know, I have done my donation. Wait a second. Oh, we have a donation. I didn't even notice that. Hold on, I have to log into my Tiltify real quick and see who donated. Let's see. Sign in. Whoever it is, thank you very much. Let's see. My campaigns. Honestly, I am so happy I got even a single donation. We got a donation from Mikarta, is their name. They didn't actually leave a message, unfortunately, but thank you very much, Mikarta. I just noticed your donation up there, your generous donation of £50. For those of you who don't know, Jingle Jam is a charity event put on by the Augscast each year. It's a way for them to give back to the community as well as those in need. If you were to give a donation of 35 Great British Pounds or more, you get a pack of games back, but you'll also be giving to a number of causes. Let me pull up the list real quick, because there is a total of 12. The fact I actually have a donation this year honestly surprised me. We've gone, 15 streams now, and this is the first one, so I'm just happy that we got one. Thank you so much. Alright, so the causes that this supports is Autistica, the Campaign Against Living Miserably, Comic Relief, CoppaFeel, Galop, Movember, Hello World, Justdiggit, the Royal National Institute of Blind People, Warchild, Wallace and Gromit's Grand Appeal, and the Whale and Dolphin Conservation. I can't see which of those causes Mikarta donated to, but actually, can I see view details? They chose Jingle Jam as their cause, so they donated to every cause equally. It just splits among all of them, though they did have the option of picking one specifically if they wanted to. And as a result, they got a pack of games. I've already done my donation, which is why there's 85 up there and not 50, and I've been giving those away to the community as a thank you to my community as well. So we have a wheel we need to spin, so let me pull that up. Let's see, put this back in studio mode. Let's get us switched over. Ooh. That one. Here we go. So we're going to be giving away 4 games right now and then 4 at the end of the stream. So let's see who's going to be getting something. We're getting towards the end of the list too. So it is going to be going to Best Party. And let's see what Best Party is going to be getting. Oh. Just realized my top bar is showing. Doot, doot. There we go. Nah, that's a lame one. We're not giving him that. That's like a, I keep rolling that one. It's like a key for some Minecraft server. It just spun it again. No, I refuse. It's like a premium membership to some Minecraft minigame server is what it is. They're going to be getting Vermilion VR. So best party. Do. Best party. All right. Put a mark down. All right, let's spin again. It's going to be going to Rika Roleplay, who I think has actually won a single one. No, they haven't. For some reason, I thought they did. Huh, all right. Well, let's go ahead and see what Rika's going to be getting. We can remove that from the list. They're going to be getting a short hike. I've heard a short hike is really good. So let's see. A short hike. That is going to be Rika Roleplay. Yep. There we go. Remove that from the list. Oh, well. Meant to spin this wheel first, but we'll see what that one pops up. All right, it's going to be going to Tall 155. And what is he going to be getting? That's another one. That requires another game to use. So I'm going to spin again. Just because it's lame. I'm keeping them on there because if they end up being the last ones, then somebody will be ending up with them. But I don't want to be giving those away early on if I don't have to. I want something people actually enjoy. So it looks like Tall 1 is going to be getting Signs of the Sojourner. Words. Where is it? Signs of the Sojourner. Tall 155. There we go. And we've got one more we'll be giving away right now. And then we'll be getting into the actual chatting and brainstorming and explaining what I actually had in mind for Privateer. Oh, Dr. Conrad. The VTuber. He's actually one of my friends in real life. He's also Antilumin on the Discord, too. I don't think I put Antilumin on here. No, I don't think he's in the list. I think I specifically pulled that name out just in case. That way he didn't have two entries. What's he going to be getting? He's going to be getting the Red Lantern. Let's see. TTT. The Red Lantern. Dr. Conrad. All right, there we go. I'll be sending those keys out after the stream. And we'll also be giving away 4 more at the end of this stream as well. So let's go ahead and close this. And I can get us moved over to the Obsidian Journal. Let's see. So, as I mentioned, well, actually, before we get into the Obsidian Journal, I should kind of give backstory on what Privateer is and was. Do I have a picture of the early... I don't have it in this one. Do I have my other one still pulled up? I don't. Let me go do that real quick. We've got some new Christmas music for this stream. Just because the old ones wouldn't be very good, just looped over and over and over. So we've got a little more variety this time. I want this one. And I want to go here. I really just want this image. Can I get just that image? Yeah, there we go. All right, so over here, turn that off, turn that on. So Obsidian, for those of you who don't know, is a note-taking app. I've been using it for better part of 2 years at this point to just keep track of stuff in general. I use it for journaling. I used it very heavily when I was doing video essays to write scripts. When I was writing Privateer, I would put all my dev notes in here as well. And when I originally came up with Privateer, I had played the second level of Halo 2, the one where you get down into the city here, right here. That's not a very good image. It's the one where they go down in the Pelican and you have to like make your way out of the city. And from there you get back on the Amberclad and jump into Slipspace to the next Halo. It's, again, the second level of Halo 2. This was right after Master Chief Collection came out on PC. So it was the first time I actually sat down to play Halo in a long time because my Xbox is long gone. Actually, it's still in storage, but I would have to go and dig it out to actually play it. So when Master Chief Collection came out, I sat down, played it, and remembered, God, this really is my favorite game of all time. So I started thinking, like, you know what? This second level on Halo 2 Anniversary, or just Halo 2 in general, is well known for being very difficult. You've got these jackal snipers everywhere on Legendary. You've got all these things popping out. Wouldn't it be cool if there was like a roguelike Halo? And so I started tinkering with that idea in my mind, trying to figure out how it would work. And then I got to Halo ODST, and that was just further cemented because it was if you're not familiar with the ODST map, it is kind of a labyrinthine system. I mean, you do have a map, you can get around, but enemies will pop up randomly. You can get in random fights, and it was just very cool. So something that would be a bit more challenging, a bit more random, a bit more replayable. That's something I wanted to try my hand at making. And so I had limited experience in Unity, and I made what you see on screen right now, which isn't a stellar image. Can I shrink that? That gets it a little bigger for you guys. So what this is my first take on doing the random generation for a city. So you can see we've got roads generated, we've got all these background buildings you can't actually interact with, and then you've got these yellow storefronts. And the idea is that each one of those storefronts would be a randomly generated thing. Some you could go into, some would be entirely blocked off, some would have loot, some would have enemies, so on and so forth. And the idea is you would make your way from one end of the city to the other, and you would get to choose your route in between point A and B. And depending on where you go, you can like go down into the sewers, you could go to different parts of the city. So you go to like a park or a museum or a stadium or whatever. But this version of Privateer never actually got anywhere. At the time, it was just called Blessed Poggers because I didn't have a better name, and Halo at one point was called Monkey Nuts. So I said, why not? Let's do it. Then this was like back when this channel first started. I was also trying my hand at streaming for the first time. The earliest stuff done on this channel is streams, but you can't find them now. I have them hidden away. In any case, real life called. I had my day job I was needed to catch up on. I was losing sleep trying to do this. Trying to do this and stream at the same time and work a day job. And I decided, you know what, let's put a pin in it, come back to it later. And so that's what I did. About a year later, actually not even a full year, let me think. Yeah, actually the better part of a year. But I moved back in with my folks to try developing Privateer full time. Shortly after I moved back in and took another crack at it, that's when I actually came up with the name Privateer. It was called Quicklime Circuits there for a little bit, but eventually landed on Privateer once I got here and started tinkering around with ideas full time. And that's when I made all the devlogs. Those were made over the course of, I want to say, 9-ish months. I want to say it was like March of 2022, and I officially stopped development in December of 2022. And that's when I switched over to doing video essays. And for the bulk of that, I was trying to nail down game feel as opposed to any specific system. Because ultimately this was supposed to be my love letter to Halo. I wanted to feature some other things that I had always wanted to see in Halo. So like those very early ones, I had the weapon system where as you turned, your weapon would kind of lag behind. Something more akin to like Tarkov, how they handle their gunplay. And my limited programming knowledge definitely messed me up in those early days. I got better as I retried the project, did some more iterative development, and eventually that ended up being the second try at Privateer, which went very slowly. And the reason it went very slowly is because it wasn't just programming, but I was also I was putting more effort into the actual scripts, like how I would speak and present all of this, present the devlog, I should say, as well as trying to do higher quality videos themselves, which took time away, as well as trying to learn 3D modeling and animation, which also took time away from actual development. I'm glad I did it. I enjoyed doing it, but it was slow going as a solo dev. So I, again, ultimately put a pin in it. And when I did, I decided I was going to keep the project around as a more writing project. Something to maybe retry one day with a bit of lore in my back pocket. That way I can at least tell people what it's about. And to that end, I have done very little writing. So if I go back over here briefly, switch journals again, back to my other one. There we go. So between... I'm going to turn this down a smidge. That's better. Between the previous version of Privateer and this version of Privateer, I also reformed my Obsidian journals entirely. I have new templates. I had new ideas. I wanted to rewrite what little of a lore journal I had from the beginning. And it just so happened that Obsidian came up with this new way of displaying information called the canvas. So if I zoom in here, you can see that there's actually text here. This wasn't a thing when I first started doing Privateer, but it's a very cool way of displaying stuff. So here you can see I've got a few different boxes for a timeline and eras. I've got years up here. I've got vague prompts for what has happened from this year from year A to year B. And it's kind of the lead up to what actually would be happening in the game to try and set the stage. So if I shrink this down, we can go back. Let me pull this up. There we go. And for that, it's very liquid at the moment. There's not a lot of established lore. I have a few general things that I wanted to touch on. So go all the way back. So it's starting in essentially modern day. And you can see I've got pre-collapse scientific development. Right now in real life, there's all kinds of things that we're figuring out that are definitely science fiction. Here in 2024, NASA's going to be sending people to the moon again, which is going to be really cool. We've got the Artemis missions coming up. But also, Helion Energy is a fusion energy company. And if they actually become economically viable, then that means basically no more need for oil. I mean, we'd probably still use it for things like plastics, but we wouldn't need to use oil for power generation or cars or anything like that. We would have a very clean alternative, and that would help us with a lot of climate change, all the carbon dioxide in the air, so on and so forth. So this is kind of like a speculative fiction of, similar companies, but discount branded just for the purpose of the story. That way I can actually use them and not use a brand name. But in here, I've got it labeled actually as Helion Energy, which is the real company. They aren't at break-even energy yet, but they're from my understanding, getting very close to it. There's also companies like Astroforge who have wanted to start mining asteroids for the first time. So it's like a speculative fiction based on what little I could learn about them just from a few Google searches. And then miscellaneous developments over X number of years. This entire blue box is like pre-collapse scientific development. And I've also got like a box for political and economic development. But, you know, I've got things in here like lab-grown test tube meat becomes a thing. The Blue Revolution sees sea-based fish farming grow in popularity, as opposed to land-based pig and chicken and beef farming. Actually, chicken would still probably be popular, but beef and pork tend to be very energy-intensive to grow, and they produce a lot of pollution as well. Lots of methane come from those animals. You've got things like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and the Great Atlantic Garbage Patch, that actually in real life today have started creating their own ecosystems based entirely around plastic. There are these islands the sizes of countries of just trash. So animals and bugs and birds and so on and so forth are learning how to actually live in that environment. And actually, as a result of this, I know some people have wanted to try and figure out how do we, get rid of all this plastic, because what has actually happened is it's bad for us too. We have microplastics in our rain supply. It's in the groundwater. It's in newborn fetuses, so on and so forth. So we need to get rid of this plastic somehow, and whether it be man-made or a naturally evolved thing, I'm willing to bet that at some point there's going to be a bacteria or microorganism that actually acts more like a mold on plastics, because as they learn to digest it and eat it and use that for energy, then they'll actually be getting into plastics we don't want them to get into, like the stuff we use to keep food in. So that would actually end up being a very real problem for humanity on both sides. So it's one of those things, like, I want to tinker with that. And this is just like the setup. Like, this is things we would have to worry about as a baseline. Cavendish bananas, they are dropping in economic viability. It's also entirely possible that they will go extinct, just like the species of banana before them, which I believe, yeah, I've got it here, the Gross Michaels banana. If you've ever tried banana flavored candy, that actually used to be the taste of bananas. That's what Gross Michael bananas taste like. So in this world I'm writing, Cavendish bananas go the same way. So bananas as you know them would go extinct, and we probably have a different kind of banana. Coffee and chocolate, much to my dismay, end up skyrocketing in price because they're very picky plants to grow. Yeah. Not great. Oh yeah, I forgot. Cafe corn. Cafe corn was like a synthetic spin-off of coffee and chocolate, made from corn by Bestly and San Monto, which, if you couldn't guess, are names for actual companies that don't have the best track record for multiple reasons. But enough of that. That's what I wrote before. It's not that important to the actual sci-fi element. This is, again, just kind of like the baseline. Right now I'm trying to like show the big blocks of what I had written out at the time. So if I go back out here, you can see this entire blue box is pre-collapse scientific development. This flowchart is just kind of a extension of what I wrote before. It was trying to figure out a logical progression of these technologies as they emerged. But we don't want to be here. We want to go all the way out here. But, well, I will talk about these gray boxes, just because they are kind of the big eras we would need to consider. So, circa 2040, we end up having the Big Sad, which is the Great Depression 2 Electric Boogaloo. From that point, it's a worldwide issue. Countries are going to be more likely to fight each other. They're going to want a way of boosting their economies or figuring out a way to wipe any economic issues they have out. And what do you know? War is a great way to do that. That's what got America out of the Great Depression is World War II. And that's what got a lot of countries out of the Great Depression is World War II. And in just about any other economic crises, you'll always hear about America trying to get into another conflict. We did that in the 70s with Vietnam. We did that in the 2000s with Afghanistan and Iraq, so on and so forth. So if the Big Sad were to happen, it's almost inevitable that it would happen again, and that leads us into the Glass War, which I have named after the glass and slag left over from nuclear blasts, because World War III is probably going to happen that way. But if you have that happen, you're going to have basically countries as we know them cease to exist, and that leaves a power vacuum for other people to try and inhabit. And that's where you get the Brink Wars, which are kind of like the reforming of local gangs and warlords and balkanized national forces. They kind of start coalescing and consolidating power and become re-emerging as nation states. And then as they kind of do all that, they start building rockets again, but rather than trying to nuke each other, because they don't really have the capability of making nukes at that point, because it's only been 7 years by the end of this section, instead they just decide to leave Earth and try to live in orbit and on the moon and etc. Just trying to hold out from radiation and things like that, to grow and prosper in a way that they would be unable to on Earth. And from there you get Luna Ascendant, which is, colonies on the moon start growing exponentially. From there you get Mars Ascendant, which is the same thing on Mars, which is even better because it's closer to being like Earth. We get to Greater Solar Colonialization, which is the existing colonies start making more colonies, until we inhabit most of the solar system. We're living in the asteroid belt. We're living in an orbit of Jupiter, Saturn, on the various moons around Jupiter, so on and so forth. We're figuring out how to industrialize the solar system and tinkering with ways to potentially move beyond, which if we get all the way over here, we start getting solar piracy. Basically, as long as people can get weapons into space and there are things to steal, people are probably going to start pirating too. Eventually you get to Earth and Restoration. Years have passed since the nukes dropped or the bombs fell. And so people start moving back to Earth to try and recolonize it and help clean up the radiation and pollution and try to make it better than we left it. And then 2082, probe signal. I didn't actually... Did I write this way back here? Yeah, this guy. So, towards the end of the pre-collapse development, we end up sending a probe out. And the entire point of this probe was to go to Alpha Centauri and do a survey, basically. See what's there. Because we know vaguely what's there. We know there's going to be at least 3 stars. There's going to be a bunch of planets around them. But we don't know what's there. We don't know if there's life. We don't know if it's completely barren. We don't know if we could live there or not. So if we go all the way back over here, we've got the probe signal, wherever it was. Yeah, Age of Solar Piracy. 2082, the probe signal. That's when the probe finally reaches Alpha Centauri and can finally get a signal back to Earth and back to our solar system. That way we can actually tell, what's up. And then using that information, we decide, hey, you know what? Let's try faster than light travel. So in 2086, we come up with what is called the point projection drive, which, I I don't really know how to explain it. Well, I do know how to explain it in terms of like how it works, but like the actual science behind it, I have no clue. Think of it like in League or some other game. In fact, let me go ahead and pull up Krita. You know, whenever here, we'll just make this a big old canvas. Now I can kind of draw the idea. Let's see. So let's say this is your spaceship, and you want to get to point A. The way the point projection drive works is kind of like in League of Legends or one of those other games with skill shots where you hold down, you basically charge it up. So the longer you hold it and the more energy you dump into it, you'll slowly start extending the line you can go or the distance you can go until eventually you reach a critical point or reach your target or whatever. And then at that point you stop, you let go, and you actually end up over here. You don't have to know where you're going. You can do a blind jump. You basically just have to have the energy to dump into it to go whatever distance you want. Very simple drawing, but I hope that gets the idea across. Like I said, the way I kind of think about it is in games with skill shots, if you hold down a button, you have the arrow that comes out of your character, and the longer you hold it, the further out the arrow is. And that's the point projection drive. So we start tinkering with these. You start getting them on smaller ships. You start getting them as bigger, like, jump gates. And then that's kind of as far as I got, I think. Yeah, I don't really have anything else. I think once I got that, I went back and started filling out the rest of this. But that's not what we're here to do tonight. We are here to jump out to further beyond. You know, this goes out to 2100. We're probably going to jump to like 2300? I don't know, at least a few hundred years for humanity to spread out and kind of, kind of figure out what they are in the star system. So let's go ahead and make a new box. Finally, after explaining all of that, and we being 33 minutes into the stream. So if I do this, boo-doo-doo. This is fine. Oh, that is not what I want. This is some interesting lo-fi Christmas music. I mean, it makes sense for Christmas, but still. All right, so for this guy, we want to go ahead and name this post-jump developments, I guess. Nah, not post-jump developments. We'll call this modern day in the series. So we'll kind of zoom out. We'll grab some of these. There we go. Modern day. And what is a good starting year? Let me grab some dice real quick. 1 second. In here. No. Oh, where's my backpack? There. That's my stuff. What did I do with it? Where did the backpack go? Oh well. I don't know where my backpack with my tabletop stuff went, so I'm just gonna have to use a random number generator online. Let's see. Yeah, that's fine, I guess. Random number generator. Let's say we'll pick a baseline of, say, 300 years, and we will go between 50, 40, actually. 40 and another 200, sure. So, 176. So, 300 plus 176 is 476. 476 plus 2023 would be our starting year. So that works out to 2023 plus 476. That works out to 2499. Let's go a little earlier. We'll say 2482 as like a good weird starting number. 2482. We'll put that in. 2482. That gives us a few hundred years to spread out, to propagate, go to different star systems. Because you got to think, like, the population boom between the Industrial Revolution and now was massive. And that was only a few hundred years. So think about how fast people can actually reproduce given probably unlimited resources, more or less. They would have to build all the infrastructure to facilitate those unlimited resources, but unlimited resources nonetheless. So, let's go ahead and do this. We'll just copy this same number. There should be a way for me to make a area. Create a group, that's what I want to do. Do. There we go. 2482. Do. There we go. Build out our timeline. 2483. 2484. 2485. 2486. 2487. 2488. There we go. 2489. 2490. 2491. 2492. 2493. And so on. So if I go back here. So as I mentioned, with the point projection drive, there would be various stations put up to launch individual ships further than they could go on their own. And that would be your main way in and out of a solar system, is you would have one of these big old point projection drives pointed at another solar system. You would basically drive into it and get shot to the next solar system over. Kind of like how I've never played Mass Effect, but I know that's how their faster than light travel works too, is they have these big old stations that are God knows how old, and that's what gets all the different ships around. So the idea is that at the beginning of Privateer the game, you would be a basically private military contractor, a privateer, in a solar system that gets cut off by a unknown alien force. This would be a first contact war scenario, because we don't have nearly enough first contact war scenarios in fiction in general. So you get to meet some friendly aliens, you get to meet some enemy aliens, a lot of enemy aliens, and you would still be fighting other people too. You're still a mercenary for, people too, who have targets who are people. And like I said, this is meant to be my love letter to Halo. And one of the things I have always thought has been a shame is that Halo's never touched on the fact, the human conflicts, like the internal human conflicts that go on a regular basis, they're never touched on in the games. They're only talked about in the books. There's a whole ass insurrection that the Spartans were originally made for. They weren't made to fight the Covenant. They were made to put down an insurrection that threatened to tear apart the UNSC's control over power. And so, in Privateer, there is no centralized authority. It would very much be a bunch of smaller states looking for their own independence and self-governance. There would still be the influence of Earth, but it would be more in the shadows than direct control. And so, in this case, we get cut off from Earth. We have no idea what the heck is going on. There would still be Earth government remnants in whatever solar system we're in, but I think my dog just barked. But words. Sorry, I am very tired today. Long day at work. Cut off from Earth. The government of this solar system realizes, hey, we need protection. There is a big-ass threat here. We have no idea what it is, and we have all these other threats that we were already dealing with that we still need to handle. Guess what? Privateer, PMC, you're up. Get ready for a filled pocketbook, because we're about to start bankrolling you hard. And that's kind of where you jump in. In the original version I had in mind, I think I mentioned this, it was going to be very procedurally generated to try and make it more replayable over a longer period of time. But if I'm going to be writing, like actually writing, then I kind of want a proper story in place, which isn't very conducive to procedural generation at all. So, the idea is that you, player, are on a planet called Carcosa. Carcosa is the... I mentioned this in the Signalis stream. It is the planet that is written about in The King in Yellow, which is a book by H.P. Lovecraft. Eldritch Horrors. It's a whole thing. I've never actually read the book. I only know about it from Sucker for Love. Specifically, watching Markiplier play Sucker for Love, I think part 2. And I found the idea of a planet that is yellow with a king on it fascinating. So this planet, it's not going to have a literal king, but it is going to be a very yellow planet because it's going to be covered in basically uranium all over it, and that's the entire reason humans have settled it, is so they can take the uranium as a power source. And you are there on a patrol as a PMC, just, minding your own business, and then you look up, and kablowie! The jump gate into and out of the system has suddenly exploded, and there are ships coming in that you don't recognize, and oh god, start your campaign. So that's the kind of introduction I intended for this game. So we will say 2482. I don't know how long this initial fight, battle, whatever you want to call it, would last. Because the problem is that the aliens I have in mind, they have very different tactics. They're not the end-all be-all military force that the Covenant were in Halo. They were a formidable force because of advanced technology, and they were very organized, and they were very religiously based, but they weren't stupid. If anything, they were so caught up in their own dogma, and that's what their downfall was. That's the entire reason the Covenant Civil War happened, and the brutes tried to kill the elites, and so on and so forth. In Privateer, I'm still trying to figure out the aliens. But gameplay-wise, they would have had many of the same roles as the Covenant did. You would have your leader units. You would have your guys running around with shields like the Jackals. You would have your little cannon fodder stormtrooper dudes like the Grunts. You'd have your big, strong, muscly, boss fight-ish guys that would be the Hunters, so on and so forth. And I would want it to be very customizable, both for the player and for the enemies. They could have entire gear loadouts that would differ from enemy to enemy. They would have a similar theme, but they would each serve a different combat role. You would have one guy running around with the alien equivalent of a shotgun, and he would be the breacher unit. You would have another guy running around with the alien equivalent of a grenade launcher. He'd be your grenadier, sniper, so on and so forth. But not only would it just be a weapon choice, it would be their other gear too. They would have optics for sniping. They would have increased carrying capacity for extra ammo. They would have... they might lose some of that gear and make themselves lighter. That way they run around quicker, and you would have the option of doing the same when you build your own loadout. That is part of the entire reason why in those early Privateer devlogs I had spent so much time on the inventory system, which became the bane of my existence. But in a story context, that is the kind of idea I want. Man, you could easily implement that as kind of like a perk system instead of actual gear. But that'd be something to figure out for future me if I were to ever try developing it again. Right now, we're back to this. Yes, we're on planet Carcosa in the far-flung future of 2482. Your point projection jump gate gets blown up, so you can't go out of the system. Things can still come into the system, but you can't get a message back out. Because, the next solar system over is however many light years away, and faster-than-light communication doesn't exist. It relies on these jump gates. So, you are here, stuck with an alien threat. Go. More or less. And that's what we need to figure out. So, we have jump gates go boom over the planet Carcosa. Carcosa is a naturally irradiated desert planet which humans have settled for power generation purposes. So, that is our starting point. You, a privateer, see unknown ships descending onto the surface. And that would be your first contact with these guys. They would kind of be around in the system for a little bit before this. But that would be something to figure out. How long? I don't know. That's why we're here. So, what can we do? What can we do? Well, what other planets would there be in this system? There would be the star, around which everything orbits. There would be Carcosa, which I imagine would be closer to the star to be naturally irradiated. There would be... what else? This would have to be a fairly young solar system, too, if there is that much natural uranium on this planet. And that would almost certainly be in every planet in this solar system, just in varying amounts. So, probably the next plan it out. Here, let's build a little chart. Star. If I can move these over. There we go. Star, we would have, say, 2 rocky planets. Just kind of like what Mercury and Venus are in our solar system. Then you'd have Carcosa. And I want this solar system to be varied, so we'll have, like, an alpine world, for example. Something that has a lot of natural flora and fauna. Rather unsettled, but not to the point that it's wild and dangerous. More like a very, I don't know, you could describe as a walk in the woods. People have settled there, but it's still very rural by, interstellar spacefaring societies. So there'd still be a lot of smaller settlements. There'd still be a lot of forest everywhere, especially since it's a forest planet. Beyond that, you would start getting into colder kinds of planets like gas giants and ice giants and things like that. So we'll say there's like a asteroid belt. And actually, on the alpine world, because if there's going to be radiation all throughout the system, then there would probably be a form of life that depends on that. Probably wouldn't be intelligent. It'd probably be just, smaller bugs or plants or something like that. More than likely plants. But we'll throw in that there are radiotropes, I think is what they're called. Radiotropes. Actually, I'll Google that one. Mushrooms that eat radiation. Yeah, radiotropes. Radiotrophic fungi is what those are. So radiotropes live here. So radiation would be a actual food source on that planet for those animals. And plants and whatever. All right, so then there would be the asteroid belt. Then there would be probably a gas giant. And then probably your jump. Let's see. Point projection drive. Jump gate. So we'll roll with this for now, have an idea of the kinds of planets that are around. There will probably be more, there could be less. We don't really know how many planets are average for a solar system, but we know there are a lot out there. So you're on Carcosa. We might actually want to move it further out. Just woke up from a 2-hour nap. What's going on? So, names be like, I don't know if you know this. You could. I don't know. At one point, I was doing game development on a game called Privateer. If you go back on this channel, you'll still see the devlogs up. And for the beginning of this stream, probably about the first 30 minutes, I was talking about, like, how I got to this point. And this point is that Privateer eventually turned from a game idea I had into just a writing project. And I went through some of the early history. It's not really fleshed out. But if I zoom out, you can see I've got a timeline. It's mostly empty. But if you go back here, we kind of start at the modern day. We've got some basic real-life kind of projected advancements that should happen. Like up here, we've got the 2024 Artemis missions to the moon. Helion Energy is a real company working on fusion energy. In this setting, a not Helion Energy would end up reaching break-even energy production, and thereby we wouldn't need oil. We could just use water as our fuel source. Down here we have things like the first automated probes landing on asteroids and things like that. And if I go down here, there's a few other just scientific developments that happen in this early age. We get test tube meat, plastic-eating bacteria becomes a thing, Cavendish bananas go extinct and get replaced by something else. But if I zoom out, this only lasts so long until we get to the Big Sad. The Big Sad being a play on the Great Depression. That leads into a nuclear war. That leads into smaller not countries popping up and taking over and trying to fill the power vacuum left over. That leads into just everybody leaving Earth because it is now a radioactive hellscape, which leads into the moon and Mars becoming, very large colonies, which eventually leads into further solar system colonialization. Keep going. The golden age of solar piracy happens. We start, fighting each other for loot and bounty and so on and so forth. And then we start moving back to Earth to make it better than we left it. And then we figure out faster than light travel. Haven't figured out anything in here yet. And then boom, quote unquote modern day. When the game as I originally planned it would have started. I just kind of rolled a dice on the date. Seems kind of like space Fallout. Yeah, not really. So when I was writing this, and the entire thing that prompted Privateer is Halo came out Halo the Master Chief Collection came out on PC. And Halo is one of my favorite franchises of all time. And I was playing back through Halo 2 Anniversary for the first time, because I hadn't seen it with updated graphics. And if I go back over to this one, I got the idea after playing the second level of Halo 2 for a kind of procedural city system that could be cool for a roguelike. It never really panned out, but this was like the earliest version of Privateer I had tried. The idea is that you would, when you first spawn in, a city would get generated. You start at one end and kind of work your way through. Each one of these buildings could have stuff in it. It could have enemies. It could have loot. It could be a challenge, a puzzle, so on and so forth. And it would just kind of be like a fun, replayable way to play a Halo-esque kind of game. But I couldn't really keep up development of this, so I put a pin in it, stopped development for like a year, and then eventually came back and wrote Privateer as it is on this channel. Which, as it is on this channel, I had focused primarily on the game feel, the user experience, how the player would actually feel and interact with the world. And that is kind of slow going when you're doing it on your own, which is part of why I had to stop development. But in the end, I was very happy with what I ended up with, and I did want to continue on. I just didn't have the money or the time to do that. So at that point, this became a writing project instead of a game development project. So if I shrink this back down, really my biggest inspirations other than Halo would have been like Battletech, because it's all about, mercenary companies going around the galaxy and, fighting for money and loot and whatnot and making names for themselves. That was a big one. Escape from Tarkov was a big early inspiration, because originally it was also going to be a looter shooter. Because, it just kind of makes sense for a roguelike. You go around, you loot, you go back out, start over for the next mission. But as time went on, and as I fell less in love with the inventory system, because it was just a pain in the ass to work with, I kind of phased that out, more or less. But it could be an idea in the future to return to. Privateer, as I last left it in-game, was kind of close to how Halo felt. I was very happy with the reticle system. I was very happy with how the guns felt. I was learning art and animation and all of that at the same time as learning to edit videos and program. So it took it was very slow going, but I was very happy with it. I just had to make a change, unfortunately. So, don't think Fallout, think more Halo spin-off, like discount Halo. The idea is that once you get to this point, after, all the rest of the history happens, you get to this point, you, as the player character, are basically a private military contractor called a privateer, hence the name privateer. And you are just on patrol on this irradiated planet called Carcosa. And you look up, and kaboom! Your way in and out of the solar system has been destroyed. By what, you don't know, but you see ships starting to descend, and they don't look like ships you had ever seen before. So that is kind of where we end up. That is what this box is. And from this box, I was trying to figure out, okay, like, what else is in the solar system? Because, honestly, I didn't really plan that. We'll say Carcosa is actually outside the asteroid belt. Because, if it's irradiated, it's not like it needs to be protected to sustain life. There we go. So one of the biggest things I still have trouble with is, like, what the aliens actually are. Like, I have an idea for how they'll act, in that they would very much fill similar roles to the elites and the grunts and the jackals and so on in Halo. It would be a federation of aliens of some sort, and each has a role in combat. So you would have your commanders like the elites. You would have your guys running around with shields like the jackals. You would have your little stormtrooper guys that are weak on their own but are deadly in groups like the grunts. You would have your big, strong, muscly dudes that are kind of pseudo-boss fights like the hunters. But what those actually are, that's kind of still up in the air. One of the ideas I had was for do I have the picture on here? Media? I do. So for the not elites, I very much like the idea of them being feathered and having this sort of thing that Owl has going on. So if it gets hostile, it kind of poofs up and looks more aggressive. That seems like a very interesting idea, because for these aliens, I don't want them to just be like scaly, reptile-y, amphibian-like creatures, because that's kind of what a lot of aliens are, at least in pop culture. I like the idea that they are more colorful, are more soft, are more, like animals you would see here on Earth, because, they would have a very similar chemistry, more than likely, very similar way of going about life in terms of evolution. So you would have a lot of the same kind of evolutionary innovations. You would have feathers, you would have hair, you'd have scales, you would have whatever. It's just a matter of, like, nailing that down as to what I want these creatures to be and how they act. That's kind of up in the air. One thing I do want to do for them is not have them... how do I put it? I want them to be... So all the aliens are carbon-based creatures. That's probably a safe bet, because carbon is... I've no expert on chemistry or speculative evolution or anything like that, but my understanding is that carbon is one of the easiest elements to base life off of, and that's why we're based on carbon. One of the biggest problems in terms of other planets is actually, like, phosphorus. Like, Earth has a lot of phosphorus, and that's what helps drive our life. It's how our DNA is based. But it's apparently kind of rare in outer space, is my understanding. So it's possible that they could have a different base chemistry, but the kinds of evolutions, like evolutionary innovations, would probably be very similar. I can tell I've been talking a lot, even if I've only been talking to myself. And you. which thank you for being here. So yeah, it's kind of from what I know, carbon can give or take 4 electrons, so it's really easy for it to bond. Yeah, that's kind of why it's so popular. I think I remember hearing that if life were based on silicon, I think is the next most likely element. The activation energy for a bond to happen is like double the amount of carbon. So you'd need a very hot environment for silicon to be a viable option. Which there are silicon-based life here on Earth. It's just they tend to be extremophiles around things like volcanic vents and volcanoes and other very hot environments where silicon is easily available. So if I go back over here to the timeline. But yeah, so we have a few different things. We need to figure out, we'll just label these A, B, C is going to be our starting point. So we'll have elites, save. We'll increase the size. There we go. Save, close. Obviously, these wouldn't be the same names because I'm just taking these from Halo because those are the kinds of roles I want to emulate. We would have to come up with new names for these, but same idea. Jackals. Grunts. If I can figure out these three, actually, let's throw in hunters too. Hunters are cool. Oh. D. Come on, Krita. Throw in hunters. There we go. So if we can figure out these four, I feel like I'd have a very good basis for a enemy faction, an alien faction. Because I don't want them to be like your stereotypical Federation from like Mass Effect, because that's lame. But I also don't want them to just be a straight ripoff of the Covenant from Halo. Even if that's what they are in spirit, I don't want them to be like religious zealots that are hell-bent on humanity's destruction. I need to figure out... You could do something like how Clankers is just a slur for the names. Oh, for like battle droids. That would be interesting. And in fact, that's kind of what these names in Halo were. It was just shorthand for the Marines to quickly identify the different aliens they saw. Because they didn't have actual names for them. They didn't know elites were actually called Sangili, or the grunts were called... Ungoy. And I forget what the jackals are called, but they didn't know the actual names. They called them these because that was shorthand for them. And then they did have, I guess, slurs names for the aliens too. Like, the elites were also called split jaws by the humans, just as a, like, derogatory term. Because, you know, their jaws are split both down the middle and up and down. You know, kind of like that. So, there would be various names. We could figure that out in time, what they'll actually be called. But I want to figure out what they are. One idea I had was for the elites and the jackals to actually be more or less the same species. But like a sexual dimorphism kind of deal. So you'd have... we could say it's like an egg-laying species. Females tended to be stronger to protect the nest. Males tended to be agile. Males tend to be more agile. The females. So this is one idea I had. Let me increase that size. Oh, if I could do this. So, like, the males would end up being the jackals. Oh. Males would end up being the jackals. Females would end up being the elites, because the females end up being a bit stronger to protect their nests in their evolutionary history. That was an idea I had. I don't know if I want to roll with that. But if that does end up being what I want to do, then I definitely want to play with this whole idea of the owl and how it can have its feathers kind of form different shapes based on the moods and emotions it's having. So, like, the females in combat would constantly have this angry look going on, whereas the males might have smaller feathers because they're more based on movement than straight out aggression. I need to grab another drink real quick. 1 second. But yeah, it's a whole lot of, like, figuring it out. Honestly, I've not done a ton of work on this since I stopped actual development of Privateer, mostly because I have always had the worst writer's block, and at the time I was more focused on doing video essays than, writing for Privateer, so that just took most of my writing time. And nowadays it's more like I just have other stuff going on. I'm trying to do the whole YouTube thing, and I've got a day job now, so I just don't have the time a lot of the time, which is unfortunate. I do want to figure this out, and I really need somebody who can just kind of help me throw ideas at the wall and see what sticks. Which is, again, part of the reason I'm doing this stream. Let's see, back to the canvas. So if I go back in here, in fact, I can go ahead and make a new canvas. Privateer. New canvas. We'll rename this. Aliens. Actually, yeah, aliens. And we can create a couple different groups. So there's, like, I guess we can call them the Federation for now. Add card. Let's say this is a federation of, like, 4 species, which will be the ones we listed before. Elites, jackals, grunts, hunters. This song keeps playing. I do have this on loop, but damn. No. Sure. Tired of that small child saying things. Alright, so, elites, jackals, grunts, hunters. One idea I did have, because part of the reason Halo 1 was so cool is because you also had 2 other factions. You had the Sentinels and, like, the robots that inhabited the ring. And you also had the Flood. Now, I don't think I'm going to have a kind of keeper robot race that kind of guides the rest of life. No Sentinel equivalent, I don't think. But, or Forerunner equivalent, I guess you could say. But I do like the idea of having something similar to the Flood, but rather than it being that weird parasitic fungi race, having it be more like a carnivorous plant species. Like, let's see if I can find something real quick. Move it over here. Plant. Alien. Like some kind of plant that is actually mobile. Kind of like how there's the plant species in Stellaris, for example. It would be awesome if one levels had an alien that... One of the levels, an alien made a creature that had non-Newtonian fluid for skin, and guns didn't work, so you'd have to use a knife or get a sword or something. That would be interesting. The problem is that with a non-Newtonian fluid, I feel like knives or swords or something wouldn't work either. But you could make the excuse that ballistic weapons don't work, so you'd have to use, say, energy weapons and burn the thing away or something. I don't know. Dry it out. Or what's another good example? Because a knife wouldn't really work. A melee weapon really wouldn't work in general. You would need some kind of chemical or directed energy or something to kill something that's like that, I would imagine. Sound, maybe. That would be interesting. Let's see. I'm trying to think of like a... Here, let's see. Stellaris fungoid portraits. I think it's the fungoids. So that one's like a parasite. There's this guy. So I'll copy and paste him into here. So there is like this guy from Stellaris, which would be interesting. So Stellaris, you make your own alien species and you build a civilization around that alien species. But if I'm going to have like a plant-based sort of creature that acts kind of like the Flood, then they would have to be all about like spreading seeds and consuming biomass, and would probably be carnivorous, just for that extra scare factor. So that's an idea. We'll put them over here and come back to them, because that would kind of be further on. Let's see. We'll put this here. Sexual dimorphism of the same species. Elite females. Their clutch of eggs from threats, while males agile to support them. So that would be an idea for the elites and the jackals. What kind of society would these guys spawn? I kind of imagine them as being a very honor-bound society, but to the point that their honor-bound nature makes them a crutch. One of the things I kind of want to emulate, I mentioned this earlier, Battletech is one of the bigger like story inspirations for this. And in Battletech, you have two different groups of... they're both humans. You have the Inner Sphere, which is like the main galaxy. In MechWarrior 5, that is like the main fighting force, or the main area you fight in. But then there's also the clans. The clans were a small sect of humanity that decided, hey, you know what? Peace, we're out. And they went and fucked off for God knows how many years. And when they made their own microcosm of humanity, they made a very honor-bound society. It was a warrior caste system where the soldiers were at the top, and they were the leaders and pinnacle of society. And then there were the merchants, and then there were the workers, and it was a weird caste system. And their way of fighting was very short, but very brutal. But then they decided, hey, you know what? We want to go and take over the Inner Sphere. Let's go back and kick everyone's asses, because we're such good warriors. Check out these guns. That I bet we can take over the entire galaxy with just like a battalion of soldiers. And then they went and they fucked around, and they actually did fairly well, but then they found out through that wars of attrition are a thing because they had no concept of a war of attrition. They were used to these smaller battles where they could just, fight and then be done and then go rest and recover. They had no concept of defense in depth or attritionable assets or constantly replacing people just to get people on the front line to wear your enemy down. They had zero concept of that. So when they encountered it, they had an entire shock in their system. They had no concept at all. And that is kind of what I want to emulate, but not outright copy, because it worked for the clans story-wise because they were human. Their way of life was very much based in things that people have done before. They had a caste system. Caste systems exist. They practiced kind of, I guess you call it indentured servitude. People who lost battle would more or less be enslaved for X duration, and then they could go and live their life again. They practiced a very insular kind of society. Wrong think was bad. In fact, there was an entire clan Wolverine, that got banished and shunned because they decided to try and go against the grain and be more like the Inner Sphere was, which is what the rest of the clans were trying to leave behind. So that works for that setting. I need to figure out what works for this setting, because I also need to figure out the setting. So back to this. Sexual dimorphism. Sexual dimorphism of the same species. Elite females would have evolved to protect their collective eggs from threats, whereas the males were more agile to support them. Honor-bound in nature, not stupid, but very tough. Honor-bound, intelligent. Well, let's flip this around. Intelligent, but honor-bound to a fault. Holier than thou. Based. Status in society is based on deeds. On individual deeds, we'll say. So, boop, boop, boop. We'll say these are the bird people. Let's see. avian / feathered aliens, but not outright birds. One thing I do want to figure out with these guys, if I am going to make them avian, is I don't want them to have a beak. I want them to have a mouth, but I don't know what kind of, like, facial structure would look good with feathers. Because if I look back at this owl, you know, you can see the beak there, but you can't really see it. It's covered up with more feathers. It's almost like he's got a mustache covering it. So I kind of wonder, like, what other mouth appendages we could give these guys that would be both interesting to look at, but not weird and gross. Or at least weird and gross in a way that isn't outright disgusting, we'll say. Because if you look at the elite, he looks cool. Like he's got this weird ass jaw, and we have no idea why his jaw is like this. But it's still cool. But I don't think it'd look good with a bird. You know, Sangili are more like a reptilian species of some sort. Maybe even amphibian. Probably... No, I think they have scales. I think they're reptilian. Not this one. Aliens. Here we go. So, what other kind of... You could make it so you can't see the mouth because it's covered by a feather like a beard. Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know. Because, at least in humans, and I feel like in a lot of social species, the mouth kind of gives you an indication of intent. Like, these bird people, they're going to have their forehead feathers or whatever. But if you think of, like, a dog, you can tell if a dog is smiling. Like, smiling dog. Copy. Paste. Like, look at this good boy. You can tell that dog is smiling. Whereas if we pick, like, a snarling dog, you can tell this is a very unhappy pupper. So, it's not just a human thing that we would want the mouth to be visible. Other animals have this kind of thing going on with them, too. And that's one of those things, like, we would have to figure that out. I mean, the aliens, or the aliens in Halo, they don't really have many facial expressions. They move their mouth. That's about as much as we understand. But they do very much have body language. So, like, let me get rid of these. The Shipmaster speech Halo 2. Here, I'll pause this real quick. So if we use this as an example.
When we joined the Covenant, we took an oath. According to our station, all without exception. On the blood of our fathers, on the blood of our sons, we swore to uphold the Covenant.
You can see he's holding himself up. You can see his mouth moving. But it's not like he has a real facial expression. I want these guys to be very expressive in how they are. And that's part of why I want to make them feathered and have these other, like, body features. But if you go, like, even over here to the grunts, you can see they're messing with each other. And they have body language, even if they have full-on masks on. And then as he starts talking to the Arbiter here in a second. One of my favorite levels, by the way.
This
Awesome.
armor suits you, but it cannot hide that mark.
This right here.
Nothing ever will. You are the Arbiter, the will of the prophets. But these are my elites. Their lives matter to me, yours does not.
That makes two of us.
You can kind of see in the Arbiter's eyes there. You get a little bit of expression there. And I don't know. It's an idea I want to figure out. I like the idea of them being very expressive. There was a what was it? It was one of the more recent dinosaur documentaries that came out. David Attenborough narrated it. David Attenborough dinosaurs. Prehistoric Planet, that's what it was. In Prehistoric Planet, they talk about some of the more expressive features of dinosaurs. So it was one of the long neck species, kind of like Argentinosaurus or Brachiosaurus. There was a version of one of those kinds of dinosaurs that had these neck pods that would pop out, just as kind of like a signal to the herd. And they would be very bright. I think they were purple, at least in Prehistoric Planet they were. But then there was also another species of, what you call it? I forget the actual name of the dinosaur, but it was a, what are they called? The not T-Rexes. Kind of like a T-Rex, but not. They still had the little arms, but their little arms flapped up and revealed that they had blue spots there for mating calls. It was a very strange way to think about dinosaurs, because we usually think of dinosaurs as what we see in Jurassic Park. Scaly, toothy, very mean. But the idea that they can have these softer features and be more social creatures, it makes sense because, a lot of animals on Earth are. But two, it's just fascinating at the same time because it's not something you would normally think about. And that's kind of what I want to do with the aliens. Again, it's very much, I need to figure out how to do that. People keep popping up on Steam. Go away, Steam. I should probably... Oh, well, it's fine. Steam. Offline. There we go. Now stuff shouldn't pop up. What else? So if these guys are going to be the sexual dimorphism of the same species, they're intelligent, honor-bound, holier than thou, status in society is based on individual deeds, so the actions of the individual rather than, relying on others. That could kind of be their crux, because they would be focused on trying to get their own glory rather than working together. They're avian/feathered aliens, but not outright birds. Have a mouth of some sort, but not a beak. Excuse me. So that's kind of the idea I have. We could put that they armor reflects the deeds of the individual. Armor/clothing reflects the deeds of the individual. So you would have things like dress uniforms or dress clothes that maybe tell a story on them somehow. It'd be neat. Be it through engravings or actual text or symbolism of some sort. Like in modern military outfits, you would have your ribbons on your chest. They could have their own equivalent of a ribbon. It could be like a tassel or a sash or something. I don't know. To be figured out, but that's the kind of idea I want to go for. But now we have to kind of figure out what the other species are going to be. Because I don't want to make them all the same species. It wouldn't really make sense to also have grunts and hunters come from the same species as these elites and jackals. Because at least with the elites and jackals, I can kind of see how they would fit together. But with the grunts and hunters, they are very different. So, I don't know. If you were to do it, it'd have to be like a life cycle thing, but that's lame. What could the grunts be? The grunts could be... Oh! I don't know about the grunts, but for the hunters, there is a series called The Death Worlders. Move my hair out of the way. Let me see. Pop back over here. Let's go to Zrin. This guy. Oh, hot damn! He just released a new video a week ago. I'm not going to watch that right now, because it's obviously on stream, but I do enjoy this guy. He's a narrator of Humanity Fuck Yeah, or Humans or Spaceworks stories, and specifically, The Death Worlders is a long-running series he's been covering. And for that, there is this species called the annelids, which are like basically earthworms in robot suits. They can't, because they're basically earthworms, like giant earthworms that are intelligent, they can't actually manipulate the world with hands. They have no appendages. So, another species, I forget who, it's somewhere in their lore, they were given robot bodies at some point, and that allowed them to be mobile and go interact with other species and actually talk with them. Well, talk. But because they don't really have a mouth. They're still earthworms. Or dirt worms, whatever you want to call them. Alien worms. But yeah, they have robot bodies. They have hands and an exoskeleton and all these other things. And they actually end up working as mercenaries a lot of the time. And they're very tough because they have metallic bodies. So that is an interesting idea. I kind of like that for the not hunters. So I'll mark that down as a potential idea. Actually, I'll mark it down up here. I think that's how you say it. Annelid. Worm people with robot bodies. Tough robot bodies. Otherwise, fairly enigmatic. Because with that, I could actually imagine the boss fight for it, if it were to be in a video game. Because you would have to like blow the armor off of the robot body to actually get to the gooey center to kill it. So I could see that being a thing. Which brings us back to the grunts. I still have no idea about the grunts. Grunts in Halo, the Ungoi, they are a small, stocky. Well, they're not even that small. They're just small compared to Master Chief. They're still like 5'5". Which is short, but that's still comparable to a human. But yeah, comparatively small to the other creatures you see in Halo. They breathe methane. They're small, kind of reptile-ish also. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of them. Ungoi Halo. Can we Halopedia? Trying to find a good picture. Oh yeah, so this is from one of the I forget if it was one of the Terminal Stories and Master Chief Collection, or if it was from something else. It might have been from Halo Legends, actually. But you can see they're like these little reptile dudes, and they just look funky. But in Halo, obviously, they have all their armor. They breathe methane, so they have to have a gas mask, and they have their tank on their back, which is a big old triangle. That's kind of why they look so different than this. Which is also another interesting idea, but I feel like if I were to copy that, it'd probably be a bit too on the nose. Also, there's who knows how many unknown species in the Covenant. We only see a few, but apparently it's significantly bigger. The universe, species. Let's see. Flood, Forerunner, Human. Huragok. I forget what the Huragok are. Are those the engineers? Yeah, those are the engineers. Jarlhane, those are the brutes. Kigyar, those are the jackals. Lekgolo, those are the hunters. Sanshayun, those are the prophets. Sangili are the elites. Ungoy are the grunts. Yanmi. What is a Yanmi? I am unfamiliar. Oh, the drones. What is a Yawnet? What is a Yawnet? Yawnet, colloquially named smugglers, are a humanoid sapient species associated with the Covenant. They're part of what is commonly known as the Covenant Fringe, a collection of various species that serve the Covenant's interests in various peripheral roles. I didn't even know these guys were a thing. Huh. More you know. Halo superfan over here learning more things about Halo. Anyways, let's go back. What else is there? Sapient species. A variety of human that evolved on oh, that's an ancient human species. We don't care about them. Ooh, that's neat. Nicknamed the Sirens, are a Piscine species native to the ocean world of Reem, part of the fringe entities of the Covenant. Look at this guy. Huh. That's neat. That's also an interesting idea, is an ocean-dwelling species that comes onto land. Okay. I'll put a pin in that. I'll save that. That's interesting. Paste. We'll put him over here with the fungoid dude. What else is there? Denisovian. Oh, ancient human. Don't care. Defolekgolo. Oh, so this is like a... Okay, so this is like an individual worm of a Lekgolo. Because the Lekgolo are basically a hive mind of a bunch of worms together. How long has the lifespan of a normal human extended? See, that's one of those things that probably varies a lot, because the average human would probably be fairly unchanged, maybe slightly longer, like 80 to 100, I would say, if you have good healthcare. If you're like the high reaches of society, who knows? I mean, we are starting to figure out how aging works, so I could understand if we manage to extend life by extra 50 years, given various kinds of genetic treatment and whatnot. But I don't know. That's one of those things that I haven't really thought about, honestly. It would be interesting to have a bunch of younger people serving just one really old fucker. And that could be just one of the human factions. Because again, this is going to be humans in general. We have all kinds of smaller societies within societies. So I could absolutely understand having a human faction that just revolves around this one old dude and him having a lot of money and it basically being a crime family or some shit. But as for an exact number of like how many years humans have extended their lifespans, I have no clue. All right, so what else do we have? Bunch of 20-year-olds serving a 300-year-old guy. Yeah, that kind of idea. Like the Doctor Who. I forget her name. Doctor Who Moisturize Me. This is the only thing I know her as. So, Lady Cassandra. So, in Doctor Who, there was this character who was obsessed with beauty. But she just kept getting older and older and older. So she kept getting basically plastic surgery and eventually turned into just a living slab of meat. And she has to have an assistant come around and spritz her with water from time to time. So she will say, "Moisturize me." It's really weird. So probably not that bad. It'd probably still be, humanoid. But it is interesting. Gaskira. Oh, okay, so those are the skimmers. Human, Huragok, Jiralhane, Katamanu. Variety of human, don't care. Katantolekolo. Substance, Gestalt of Lekgolo, and one of the 6 species. Okay, so there are multiple kinds of Lekgolo. I didn't really realize this. Because I knew there were the hunters, and I knew there were the ones that get stuck into the scarab. Hey, Keith Jerky, how you doing? We have a new person, which means I have to go back and explain things. So, let's rewind a bit. I've been talking to Names Are Like, just kind of brainstorming ideas. But so you know what has happened. How do I word this? So when Halo Master Chief Collection came out on PC, I went back and played through all the Halo games. And as of fairly early on during that, when I played through Halo 2 again, and got to the second mission, there's that mission where they fight through the city. And at the time I was like, oh, you know what? This would actually be a very cool roguelike, because I was playing on Legendary. You die a lot in Legendary. There's Jackal Snipers, there's the Invisible Elites, so on and so forth. Oh, yes, you recall. So at that point, I decided, hey, you know what? Let's try and make a game based around this. It'd be like a roguelike Halo, more or less. And that was the first version of Privateer. And this is what the map looked like. It was each of these blocks on here is supposed to be a different building, and some would have loot, some would have enemies, some would have puzzles, so on and so forth. And you would work your way through the city until you get the end. Yes, it'd still be from a FPS perspective. I just took this picture over the top of the map. But eventually it got to a point where I couldn't work on that because I had a different day job at that point, and I was also streaming at that point, and I was just getting drained. So I put a pin in it, came back to it about a year later, and that's when I started working on Privateer, which if you go back on this channel, you can actually see my old devlogs for. And it was basically meant to be my love letter to Halo and Battletech and other franchises that I thoroughly enjoyed and wanted to, see something kind of like, but, with my own spin on it. And the idea was that Privateer, as it eventually came to be, would have been still a roguelike, still first-person shooter, but you would be basically managing your mercenary company and traveling around to different parts of your solar system and taking jobs and, murdering things. Human, alien, whatever. But the aliens were still fairly unknown. So like an XCOM sort of vibe. More like a MechWarrior Battletech sort of vibe. Because XCOM, you can think of it as humanity's last stand against the alien invasion. This would be already in space, and humans, as humans do, hate each other. We would be fighting each other. You would be part of a private military corporation trying to fight other private military corporations for private interests. And then the aliens just kind of stumble into this mess and get caught up in the mix and get their asses kicked. So yeah. That is the kind of story that I wanted to end up telling. And what this stream is kind of hashing out some of the ideas. So if I go back over to my other journal over here. So where are you in the creative process? Very early. Unfortunately, like, I have a lot of nebulous ideas. But I've always had the worst writer's block. So it's always been a matter of like putting pen to paper and figuring it out. I have a timeline here. It is long, but it is very empty. Like if I scroll in here, you can see that there's not much here. But if I go back here, I do kind of want to start in modern day. So like over here we have 2023 modern day. I do have some real life events going on right now. So like in 2024, we have the Artemis missions to the moon. Helion Energy is a real company that is trying to work out fusion power. I wouldn't use them in the actual story, but I would use a company like them in the lore. We're starting to try to figure out how to mine asteroids. There's various other things that I think would probably happen in like the next 100 years, like lab-grown meat becoming a thing, or life on Earth trying to figure out how to eat plastic, and as a result ending up with like a mold that eats plastic, which actually becomes a problem of its own. Because although that helps deal with our pollution problem, now we have a food storage problem. Cavendish bananas, because why not? Going extinct, because we've had that happen before with the Gross Michaels banana. So we'd have to figure out something else. Not really a gray goo, because it would only affect plastic is the thing. Yeah, not the banana. So yeah, it would basically be a mold. It wouldn't be like a constant consuming entity that would destroy all life on Earth and the Earth itself. It would just be something that messes with plastic. But that's only in the like 2030s is as far as that goes. And then I go a little bit further out. We've got discovery of the graviton for like anti-gravity stuff. To help explain some funkiness with the sci-fi physics in the FTL tech. So, FTL tech. I was actually about to get to that. So, after, what is this? 2039, we get into the Big Sad, which is a play on the Great Depression. Economic issues all over the world. Eventually leads into nuclear war, which eventually leads into all the remnants of humanity kind of banding together in the form of warlords and gangs and other smaller entities that slowly start coalescing, which eventually get to a point of launching stuff back into space, and that leads to an exodus off of the planet, which leads to the moon becoming very populated, which eventually leads to Mars being very populated. And if we keep going, we colonize the solar system, keep going. Space piracy becomes a major issue as we, find all sorts of shinies out there. And then we end up with the point projection drive. It takes some time to get there, obviously, because we have been working on like fusion power for God knows how long. I would imagine FTL tech would take God knows how long as well. So this is probably a very fast timeline for this. But the idea is that if I go back over here to Krita, if you think of League of Legends or any other game with a skill shot, imagine holding down your button, and your character builds up a charge. So you get a little arrow coming out of your body, and it just slowly grows, slowly grows, slowly grows, slowly grows, until you let go and you go, boom, you're over here now. That's kind of how the point projection drive works. So you would end up with smaller ones put on ships, but you'd also have larger ones put out, kind of like the Mass Effect relays in Mass Effect. These big stations that would launch other ships to other solar systems. And so you kind of have your like in-system travel and then your system-to-system travel as two separate implementations of it. But it would be very expensive and very energy intensive. So you would have things like fusion power to help power this. You would have, actually, as I was writing it over here, if I go to the quote-unquote modern day of the series, like where Privateer the game would actually start, you're a private military contractor on a naturally irradiated planet, and you're there as part of the resource extraction efforts, or rather protecting the resource extraction efforts, to just collect uranium. That way you can use that for power generation as well. Let's see, I have a message. Oh, no, I'm good. So yeah, that's kind of the point I got to. And then as you're here on this planet, the point projection drive station above you blows up, and then, oh no, all of a sudden there are these ships that you do not recognize descending down, and those are your first contact with the aliens. Your first contact specifically. They would kind of be around in the system a bit before the game starts, but it would be more as like a lore thing. I would still have to figure that out. So like an alien Pearl Harbor. Yes, actually, that is a excellent comparison. They fuck around and then they find out. And then if I go back over here to the aliens, I'm still trying to figure them out. From a gameplay perspective, I want to mimic the roles of the various aliens in the Covenant in Halo, because again, this is kind of like my love letter to Halo, but I don't want to directly copy for multiple reasons. One, that's lame, but two, that's also a legal issue, because Halo is, copyrighted by Microsoft and 343. So different species, different roles, etc. Yeah. Right now I just labeled it the Federation. I'm not happy with that. They wouldn't be a democratic federation of some sort. But I also don't want to make them like the Covenant in that they're religious zealots. Because again, I feel like that'd be too close of a copy. But I'm still trying to hash out what the species themselves are too. So right now I kind of have an idea for the elites and the jackals to actually be like a sexual dimorphism of one species. So the females evolved to protect their clutch of eggs back when they were, still animals. And then the males would be a much more agile, smaller species, form factor, to help assist the females in protecting the nest. They would be the ones that run out and get food and help make everything nice and neat and, shovel the poop out of the nest. Yeah, strength versus dex. Their kind of society would be that they're very intelligent, but honor bound to a fault. Their holier than thou status, they would be very holier than thou to each other and to anybody else that they interact with. And their status in their own society is based on individual deeds. But that would also be, they would be very strong individually, but they would have very poor teamwork, is how I imagine them. And this is all stuff we came up tonight with. I had a vague idea of a lot of this, but this is what we've done tonight. One thing that I did know I wanted is, for all these species, I want them to be more social in the same way that a lot of animals on Earth are. So I was talking to Names Are Like earlier about, what is it? The David Attenborough dinosaur documentary that recently came out. Prehistoric Planet, that's what it's called. And in it, he talked about how there were a lot of dinosaurs that probably were more social than we thought they were. Because usually when we think of dinosaurs, we think of Jurassic Park. They're all scaly, they're very toothy, they like to eat each other and us and anything else they can get their hands on. But in reality, they would have to be at least somewhat social. Like, they talk about how T-Rexes were probably excellent parents. They talk about how there are other carnivores that have little arms kind of like the T-Rex, but rather than being actual, like, clawed arms, they're little flaps, and when they flip up, they have, colors for mating displays. They talk about how sauropods had, well, at least some species of sauropods may have had these air sacs on their neck that blew out and were bright colors to, like, communicate with the herd. Many apex predators are solitary, like leopards, bears, etc. Yeah, that's how a lot of apex predators are, but not every animal on Earth is an apex predator. And there are plenty of animals that are social and have these other ways of communicating. In fact, even with apex predators like bears and lions, they still have signals to each other for communication. A good example being, what is it? I'm mostly thinking with like prides of lions, how they have different roles in their own pack. Because, usually the male lion just kind of laces around, and it's usually all the female lions that actually go out and do the hunting and take care of the cubs and so on. You have things like bears, grizzly bears. I would agree, they tend to be solitary for the most part, but when it becomes salmon season, they don't care about each other one bit. They just go to the river and start chowing down on some salmon right next to each other. There's going to be these other things that these species have that makes them interact in a interesting way. And that's one of those things I kind of want to figure out. So in this case, I want them to be a very feathered species. Not quite bird. I don't want them to have a beak. That's kind of something I am unsure about. But I definitely like this gif of an owl and how expressive it is. This is clearly an owl seeing something it doesn't like and getting into attack mode. And having this kind of expressiveness on an alien species, I think is cool. Because usually we think little green men, we think elites, we think xenomorphs. A lot of things that don't have a lot of expressiveness to them. They have maybe some eye movement, maybe, bare their fangs, in the case of xenomorph. But usually they don't have actual, like, facial emotion. Which I think is a very interesting signaling method that, we use, dogs use it. Most mammals have some kind of facial expression. Birds use facial expression. Frogs and reptiles, not so much, but, they have other methods. Frogs ribbit. They have their bright colors on their throat sac, whatever it's called. Or they can just be bright colors in general. Same thing with lizards. We have chameleons, we have iguanas, we have all these other reptiles that can be bright colors. It's just I don't want them to be gray and scaly aliens is the thing. Because we've had enough gray scaly aliens and I find it annoying, to be fair. One idea I had for, like, the hunter. Understood and I agree. Okay, that's good to hear. So one idea I had for the hunters, quote unquote, not hunters, is there's a series called The Death Worlders. It's a Humanity Fuck Yeah or Humans or Space Orcs, like, short story series. And in it, there is a species of worm people. They're basically giant earthworms that are intelligent, but they have no limbs, they have no they don't have arms, they don't have legs, they don't have hands. They can't speak. They just kind of have like a short range telekinesis, I guess. Like they can communicate to each other, but nothing else can communicate with them. But at some point in the lore of that series, another species gave them robot bodies. So suddenly they have hands and can actually manipulate the world around them. And they can go and do stuff and interact with the other species in that setting. So I kind of like that idea. I don't know if I want to take it directly or if I want to tweak it. I can very much imagine a mini boss fight in which you have this robot thing that you have to blast the parts off of to get to the gooey worm center. So I feel like that would be interesting, but I'm not 100% sold on it yet. And then there's the grunts, which I have no idea what to do for the grunts, because I don't know, with this more like expressive version of the aliens, I feel like they're going to be less likely to want to throw away life, kind of like how the Ungoi were in Halo, or the grunts were in Halo. Because you, as anybody who's played Halo can tell you, grunts were just cannon fodder. And that's how they were treated in the Covenant, is they were just cannon fodder. Yeah, I don't want these grunts to just be cannon fodder. I want them to actually be, I don't know. Because if they are just cannon fodder, mechanically they will be cannon fodder. They'd be very easy to fight, and their main thing is that they'd be dangerous in groups. But if they act like that, and careless with their own life, then that's kind of I feel like that'd be a weird way to base a society. What is a idea? One of the ideas I had way back when, like when I was first like hashing out ideas for quicklime circuits, which is like the version of Privateer between Privateer and Blessed Poggers, like that era between I was the original development and the development on this channel, thinking like World War One, all humans yet still some fodder. Yeah, that's actually kind of what I was about to say, is one of the early ideas I had is that they would use squad tactics. So they would have big weapons that they would have to kind of work together to use, or they would kind of like clamber around the battlefield to try and flank you. I think one of them was kind of like a monkey-ish species where they try to climb up walls and get around you using obstacles. But they were so small compared to the weapons they held that they would have very bad aim, is an idea I had. But again, that's another one of those ones I don't know if I want to go with it. This is intense AI coding for sure. Yeah, some of the last devlogs I made were learning behavior trees to try and start figuring out how to do this stuff. Right now though, I'm not doing coding. This is just a writing exercise. So I'm not too worried about it, because it's not my problem for however many years until I actually try to make this again. And when that happens, it's almost certainly going to be more focused on the human side of things than the aliens, at least at first, because humans and ourselves are going to be very expressive. Like, we'll yell at each other, we'll fight each other. Understood. We'll stay in the scope of writing. Yeah. This is more about making something interesting and trying to flesh out the world than actually mechanically implementing something. Because if I were going to mechanically implement something, I would be shooting myself right now, because even this much would be a pain in the butt to set up, because most of my time doing Privateer was like 3D modeling and animating and rigging characters. I that's what I was learning to do, and that's why those last few devlogs took so long in between each other. So implementing this, that's a good like 6 months of work right there. And that's before the AI too. Oh, I'm getting tired. I've been talking for about 2 hours now, and it was a rough day at work. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other stuff we can do. Well, actually, when you came in, what's next on your plate? So, when you came in, and before I started explaining up to this point, I was actually looking through the Halo wiki, because I actually noticed a species I had never seen before, which if I move my camera, these guys right here, They aren't in any of the Halo games, but they're apparently one of the Covenant fringe species that are in the books, I guess. I forgot what they're named already. I can go back to the wiki and find out. But they're like I think it said they're a piscoid species, which would be like I want to say that's like a snail, or hold on, let me look it up. Piscoid. Body shape like that of a fish. Yeah, that's what it is. Body shaped like a fish. So they're fish people. Waterborne for the most part. They come on land from the brief bit of I read. But I was just kind of looking through this because I had no idea those guys existed. There was another one. What was it? The Dazreem? Oh, these guys are the Dazreem is what they are. Desinovian, those were humans. Letgolo, those are the subspecies of hunters. Those are them. Hiragok. Ancient human. Letgolo. Kigyar, the jackals. What are these? Low-gravity reptilian species with taxonomic similarities to the Kigyar. It is unknown whether they survived the dark time following the reintroduction after the activation of the Halo array. No idea what this is. No picture, no nothing. Netherop species. Protogenic species was native to the world of Netherop. Species was assumed extinct by John 117. They were described millennia after the Great Purification by Olympia Vale as simple but industrious miners. Oh, interesting. But yeah, I'm just kind of looking at like what other species they have. Senchayun, those are the prophets. Sangili are the elites. Tavoians, subspecies of Kikyar. Oh, those are the skirmishers in Halo Reach. Morlek Golo. Ungoy are the grunts. Xanilin is what's her bucket from Halo Infinite. Yanmei are the drones, and then there was the Yawnet, which is another species I had no idea existed. They're like a humanoid smuggler species. That's another like Covenant fringe faction, I guess. You don't see them in the games at all, so. But they look a little too human for me, so I do like the Dazreem though. They look neat. So that's why I got a picture of them in the Obsidian Journal over here. Just because they're neat. I was also thinking of like what a knockoff Flood could be. And one of the ideas I had was kind of like a colorful flower plant creature. That's like a carnivorous plant. I would still have to figure out the exact details of it, but I got this creature portrait from, I think it was the Stellaris wiki. I know this is in Stellaris, I just forget where this picture in general came from. So that's another idea for other aliens, but right now I want to focus on these four and kind of fleshing them out. Move them over a little bit. Actually, now that I think about it, for the grunts, I could actually see the fish people kind of fill in that role. Because, you know, if you think about fish, they tend to have a lot of offspring at once. So I could kind of see that. But also, if they are usually waterborne, when they come onto land or in space or wherever that isn't also in the water, they're probably going to be very clumsy in that environment. So it would kind of be an excuse to have a smaller form factor creature that is also very clumsy, not through fault of their own, but because it's just not an environment they're suited for. That would be interesting. Maybe. Yeah, with a spacesuit of sorts. Because that's kind of what the grunts in Halo have. Because the Ungoy, they breathe methane. They have to have their mask. They have to have their big triangular tank on their back because that's how they breathe. So I could see like a fish species having some kind of similar gear just so they could breathe and walk around too. Call them the mermen as the like human slang for it. All right, that's an idea. We'll write that in real quick. I'll put a question mark next to that one. When you kill them, water pours out of their suit. Yeah, that'd be interesting. They could have purple blood. I know octopi have purple blood. At least I think octopi have purple blood. I want to say they do. Do octopi have purple blood? They have blue blood. There is a purple kind of blood. Wow, I realized the spelling mistake I had there. So there is a kind of blue or purple blood. Purpura. No, that's a human condition. Because there's like different kinds of oxygen-carrying chemicals. Horseshoe crabs have weird blood. Yeah, they do. Horseshoe crabs, we actually try to farm their blood for medicine, if I remember correctly. There's something special about their blood that we actually try to collect it. But I think they're trying to stop that because it's actually messing with the horseshoe crab population. Because the entire way they collect it, I think, is they cut off the tail and just kind of put them over a funnel. And then after they drain so much, they release them back into the wild. No, that's not what we want. Purple blood animal. Yeah, I forget the exact chemical compound. I just know it's useful in pharmaceuticals, and that's why we do it. Hemerythrin is another protein that gives a purple-pink blood color to some mollusks like lamp shells and sea squirts. Interesting. I know there's like an entire chart of the different... Oh, actually, I think this is it. That was a random link I clicked on. I'm glad it worked out. This one. So, humans, we have hemoglobin. Blue is hemocyanin. Green, some segmented worms, some leeches, some marine worms. Chlorocurin, chemically similar to hemoglobin. The blood contains both hemoglobin and chlorelin. Light green when deoxygenated. It is green when oxygenated. Although when more concentrated, it appears a light red. Interesting. And then violet. Marine worms including peanut worms, penis worms, and brachiopods. I didn't know there was a worm called a penis worm. More you know. Hemerythrin is only a quarter as efficient at oxygen transport when compared to hemoglobin. In its deoxygenated state, it's colorless, but imparts a violet-pink color when oxygenated. Oh, more you know. So, close that out. Oh, one sec. Gotta look at my Discord. I just realized I have a message. Do that way nothing gets shown. Oh, it was just Lawful let me know his Space Engineer server's up. Speaking of, the Space Engineer server, for anybody interested, is currently down because Lawful, he wants to do a unofficial community server, and I'm going to let him because I don't want to keep running the server. But on tomorrow, for tomorrow's stream, which was originally going to be a tour of my server that I had running for Jingle Jam, apparently everything blew up because Reavers attacked, so there's nothing really to tour, so we're just going to be doing Space Engineers minigames tomorrow. Completely unrelated. Alright, shrink that back down. Pop back into Obsidian. Let's see, there we go. So yeah, that could be an idea for these guys. I'll just kind of leave that as a question mark for now, because figuring these guys out are going to take so long. In fact, what kind of weapon tech did you have in mind? So, if we go back to the timeline, again, the early pre-collapse stuff is loosely based on what we have today. And today we are figuring out lasers. They're not in full deployment yet, but we're figuring them out. They're probably never going to be like human portable, just from a energy density standpoint, unless we figure out something that is very energy dense that we could use for it. But they could certainly be ship-mounted weapons. They could be vehicle-mounted weapons. I think ballistic weaponry is probably going to stay king for like infantry combat, just because gunpowder is a very efficient way to like store energy. Because you don't have to worry about power generation in that case. For an FPS that is best, in your opinion, I would agree. It would be weird if humans had, energy weapons like lasers or plasma or whatever. But the way I kind of want to write it in is that we do have them. They're just not practical for infantry. Like I could absolutely see using a plasma weapon of some sort, not necessarily as a weapon, but as a tool. Because we have like plasma cutters right now. We use big industrial machines that shoot focused lasers of plasma to cut steel. So I could see there being some other version of that is ineffective beyond like 2 feet. But if you use it as a tool, it's perfectly viable to, cut something up with. But again, for the actual like common gun, it would probably still be a gun. Though, that said, I did want to play with like funky designs. And looking back at like World War I, World War II mechanisms, one idea I had, this was going to be like one of the earliest weapons I came up with, was for the sniper rifle. Having it be basically an upsized M1 Garand and calling it the Garand Pappy. It'd be like a M1 Garand, so you still have the in-block clip that goes in the top, but it'd probably be fewer shots at a higher caliber, like a 50 cal or something, which would be insane in real life, but would be very interesting in-game, I think. What else was there? There was going to be... If you look back at the Privateer devlogs, I know one of the weapons I had was kind of a cross between a Vector SMG and a MP5 SD. It had like the Vector bottom and like magwell, and then the top had the integrally suppressed system. There was the pistol, which was loosely based on the Glock. It would probably be a just Glock, basically. Space Glock is what it would be. But I do like the idea that there would be a higher caliber revolver, kind of like a modern hunting revolver of some sort. Be it a 40 or a 50. Probably a 400 caliber of some sort. Or 40 caliber of some sort. Because I think that's what most hunting revolvers are, is somewhere in that range, between 357 and 500 Magnum. Yeah, revolvers are always cool. I know the French actually have a sniper revolver they use. I think it's part of their counterterrorism operations, is they actually set it up with a bipod and a scope. For use in those like very tiny windows that are used in government buildings. That way they can post up in those. So something like that would probably be interesting, but who knows? What else was there? There was a shotgun I made a design for, though it only barely got implemented in one of the devlogs. Let me see if I can pull up the Privateer devlogs real quick. View channel. Overhaul. So if I pull this up, go to the oldest. It would be this one, fairly early on. Well, there's the SMG, the Vector crossed with the MP5. There's that. I'm trying to find the shotgun I made. I don't see it in this one. I think I got it done right at the end of that devlog, so it was probably this one. Back when I used a lot of text and made very short devlogs. Well, there's an example of the AR, which that's based off a real Israeli rifle, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to find the shotgun. I know I have the shotgun somewhere in one of these devlogs. If it's not there, I know it would be in this one, Reticle Recital. Because I specifically had an entire section in this one. In action. So here's the AR with its reticle. There's the shotgun. So it was kind of a play on the... Wow, that was so brief. I thought I had more on that. It was kind of a play on the Halo shotgun crossed with a modern shotgun. Looks like G36. Yeah, I think... I'm trying to remember what I modeled the assault rifle after. I want to say it was a cross between a G36 and... Let me see if I can find that Israeli rifle. Israeli assault rifle. It wasn't the Tavor. It starts with the C. Carmel. The Carmel. Carmel rifle. Copy image. We'll paste it over here. That came in very small. So this is the Carmel. So I think the assault rifle I made was a cross between the Carmel and the G36, if I remember correctly. Because I know I like the G36 carry handle. I've always thought it's neat. And I think there was a version of the Carmel that I saw that I just really liked the profile of. Oh, here it is. Copy image. Paste. So it was this rendition of the Carmel that I really liked. I think it was this front handguard looks really neat. On this picture, that's not so much. That looks more blocky. But this one's neat. So stick a G36 handle on top of that and call it a day. So we'll back that out. I am pretty tired. I think here at 10, I'm probably going to check out. But it has been good talking. Haven't gotten nearly as much actual writing as I wanted to do, but this has definitely put all this back on my radar and has gotten me to think more about it. In fact, I think I'm kind of feeling done. So before we go, I think I'm gonna go do my evening evening game giveaway. Keith, actually, if you want to go ahead sub, this is now my old channel. I have a new channel. It's called Buffalou. I should have a link somewhere. In fact, I'll go ahead and find a link for you real quick. This channel is now primarily going to be my variety channel for streaming, and if I want to do stuff like this, writing, game dev, stuff like that. That's going to be over here, but more than likely, most of my content for a while is going to be just gameplay, and that's going to be over on this new channel. My kind of flagship series is a space engineer survival series called Space Pirate Sim. I've got a few episodes on this channel, if you want to take a look at it. I'm starting a fresh start on the new channel. Episode 2 will probably be coming out this weekend. So there you go. And that's really where I'm going to be pushing a lot of my new content is over there, and it's going to be more of a gameplay style stuff. There's going to be Space Pirate Sim, and then from Jingle Jam, where I'm doing these streams, I'm probably going to be cutting up the Signalis stream that I did earlier in the month, as well as Xenonauts 2. That's probably going to become a series as well, because I had a lot of fun with all of those, and then the rest will probably get chopped up into highlight reels, more or less. So, I hope you enjoy. I hope you become part of the community. I do have a link to my Discord if you want to join. Members of the Discord, as I was actually about to explain, they're getting entered into a game giveaway. So where this is for Jingle Jam is a charity event where the Auxcast actually give you a pack of games if you donate above a certain amount. In this case, it's 35 British pounds, which I've done my donation up there, and another member of the community actually donated as well, which I'm very happy about. It's the first donation I've gotten for Jingle Jam. So I'm giving away all of my games that I got to members of the community. So I have a wheel of members over here, so I'm going to go and spin it, and I'm going to be giving away 4 games right now, and I gave away 4 at the beginning of the stream as well. So let's see who's going to be getting a game. I just realized my Christmas music is off, because I paused it earlier. Alright, so Denton HML is going to be getting a game. I turned that up too loud. There we go. So what game is he going to be getting? Denton is going to be getting Lacuna. Let's see, pull this back up. Lacuna. Lacuna, that one. Oop. Denton HML. So we've got that one over here that can get removed from the wheel. Let's go ahead and spin again. I'm going to spin again on Squid Noises because he has won a lot previously. There were fewer members on the wheel in the earlier streams. He has won a total of 4 games already, so I'm just going to remove him from the list for the time being, because he should be good. Hey, John! Welcome to the stream, though you are catching me, like, right as I'm doing the ending, so... Happy to have you, though. Peace Potatoes, it is honestly the same thing. Peace Potatoes is also 1-4. This wheel really likes the same people, though there were fewer people on the wheel before. Names Be Like, I think, has actually won before... No, Names Be Like hasn't won before. But he is a cool guy and a fantastic member of the community. So Names Be Like is going to be getting Signs of the Sojourner. Actually, I thought I already gave that one away. Yeah, I gave that one away earlier to Tall One. So, okay, so that's going to get a reroll. John, if it rolls on you, you're getting a key, but it hasn't rolled on you yet. Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. Names Be Like. There we go. how did your name get in? So, before the previous stream, I went ahead and what was it? The morning stream of Sunday, it was still the limited people to those who reacted to that one message. But the problem is that only 18 people reacted to it, so there were a bunch of re-rolls for winners. The top winner currently has like 5 games, which is why earlier those people who got like 4 games, I took them off the list. So I just opened it up to everybody who's in the Discord. So you can get a game if it rolls you. So that's 4, 5, 6. So I still have 2 more to give away tonight. We've got Void Cake. What is Void Cake going to be getting? Zeepkist. Unsure what that is. So we'll remove that. Cool. And we have one more. Who's going to be the last winner tonight? It's going to be Big Swig. Zeepkist is a racing game, but instead of a car, you're in a Pinewood Derby car. So you use gravity as your engine. That actually sounds really interesting. I always wanted to make one of those cars when I was a kid. Though, really, there's no place around me that would really work. We've got a couple good hills in my area, but nowhere that you can really build up a lot of speed. Nope, we're skipping that. MCC Island, that's the weird Minecraft server thing. Again, if somebody gets at the very, very, very end, they're getting it, but I don't want to give that away because it's kind of lame. So Big Swig is getting Paradise Marsh. Oh, whoops. There we go. He's our last winner. Use gravity as your engine. Make one now. So the problem is that I am an adult and now have to pay for my own healthcare if I were to wreck and break a limb. So, no. Also, I would have to pay to build the car because I have to buy the materials to do so. So no. But it is an idea. Maybe when my nephew comes of age to start doing crafts and building things, I may build him a little car, and that's like a pedal-powered one. Because that'd be fun. His dad likes bikes. But that's a few years away, because he still has to be born first. Pinewood Derby cars are too small to sit in. Oh, wait, are you talking about, like, the little ones, like the Boy Scouts make, where you put little CO2 canister in the back? Yeah, I think we are thinking different things. Pinewood Derby car. Okay, yeah. You're thinking about the little ones. I'm thinking about, I think it's a boxcar. Boxcar derby car? Yeah, I'm thinking of boxcars. Like these things. where you can actually sit in them, but they're just like small little go-karts. Anyways, that is this stream. If you want, John, I know you're a very active member of the community. I can recap everything, or you can watch the stream, or it's whatever. You might have already known everything we discussed tonight anyway, because I recapped existing stuff like twice, and we honestly didn't do that much writing. It's aight. Okay, if it's aight with you, it's aight with me. Anyways, thank you very much. I'm very happy that you guys have watched and listened to me ramble about a series game world that I want to make. I hope it works out. One more big shout out to our other donator. We actually got a donator. It was Mikarta, who donated 50 British pounds to Jingle Jam. And I would like to give a big thank you to Micarta because that's the first donation I've actually raised in 2 years of doing this. Last year, I didn't really have anybody watching. This year, I have people watching, but not many people have donated. So Micarta is my first Jingle Jam donator, and I am thankful to them. Yeah, I had a lot of fun brainstorming too. But for now, I'm going to head out. So you guys have a wonderful evening, and bye-bye.